everyone, Miss Arp here. Today I'm going to teach you the following 6 stitches for your embroidery project. We're going to learn the running stitch, the back stitch, the split stitch, the chain stitch, a satin stitch, and then also learn how to tie French knots. I have my embroidery hoop with my fabric inside. It's pulled nice and tight and I'm ready to go. I'm going to take my first string here that's already threaded through my needle with a nice knot on the end. And I'm going to come up from the back of my embroidery hoop. And I'm going to come up through the beginning of this line right here. Remember to pull it until it hits the knot on the back. Okay, so for the running stitch, it looks like a dashed line. So there's going to be a stitch and then a space in between, with a stitch and a space in between. So I'm going to go back down through that line and pull it nice and tight. Then I just kind of gauge the same distance as my stitch for my blank space and pull my needle through. Going back down again. And there we are. To end it on the back, I've still got plenty of string left over. Remember, that's really important. You need to make sure that you have a knot on each of your loose threads, otherwise they'll come undone. So I'm going to slide it underneath my last stitch there and pull it through. Make sure you don't get under your into your fabric, okay? You just want to get under that thread. Before this loop closes, I'm going to circle back around and go through the back of the hoop. And then I'm going to pull it tight. Okay? And there's my knot. The back stitch, which is what we're going to learn next, is very similar to the running stitch. So it starts off the same way, coming up through the back of the hoop. Pull it till you feel your knot catch. And we're going to go back down for a normal running stitch. And then we're going to come back up like we're doing a running stitch. Only this time, instead of going here, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back through this opening to create a solid line. Again, as if I'm going to do a running stitch, except I'm going backwards. Our next stitch is called the split stitch. We're going to start it just like we did for the other two with a normal running stitch. You can do it 2 different ways. I'm going to teach you this way. So I'm going to go back down like I'm doing a running stitch. And you can either come up through the middle of this stitch, or you can come up like you're doing another running stitch. And you dive back down in the middle. So I try to open it up and place my needle in the middle. So it's like the running stitch and the back stitch combined. Next, we're going to learn the chain stitch. So the chain stitch also starts on the back. And this is the first stitch that we're not going to do a running stitch for. We are actually going to go back down this point of entry. When you do that, you want to be aware of where your knot is on the back. If you go through your knot, sometimes it will cause your thread to get tangled, okay? So as I'm pulling my thread through, notice I've got it looped around my thumb, because for the chain stitch, you want it to create a little loop. A little loop, okay? It's going to get a lot smaller, but we're just going to leave it this big so that we can see what we're doing. Okay, so both of my threads are coming from this hole. I'm going to come up on my line maybe like here. So like 1 stitch length away. And notice I'm coming up in the middle of that loop. As I pull it through, it catches. I'm gonna go back down through that point. Grab my thread on my thumb from my loop. Find my line and bring it up. Next, we're going to learn the satin stitch. So unlike the rest of these, this stitch is going to go vertical for my example. You're going to have 2 lines that we follow. So it doesn't really matter if you start on the top or the bottom. Make sure you pull it till it catches your knot. You're going to go up to that top line if you're doing it like I am. Okay, I'm going to come up right next to, right next to it. If you're too far away, you're going to show fabric, and the point of the satin stitch is to fill it in entirely with thread. So I'm going to pull it up and dive back down right next to my previous. Since I'm on the bottom now, I'm going to come up right next to it and go up. Our last stitch is the French knot. So we're going to have 2 points of entry, and I kind of refer to it as a snake bite, where you're going to have one where you come up, and when you dive back down, it's going to be kind of right next to it. So I'm going to come up for my first one, pull it till I feel my knot catch, and then I'm going to take my string, I'm going to lay it out in front, careful not to wrap it around your hoop hinge. And with my right hand, I am holding the back of the needle. In my left hand, I am wrapping the thread around the needle. 1, 2, 3. You can wrap it as many times as you'd like. The more you wrap it, the larger your knot will be. As you wrap it, if you don't hold the needle up against the thread, it's going to come off of your needle. So as I wrap it, I am holding my needle up towards the sky. 1, 2, 3. I also have to hold it back here, because if I don't, it will unravel by the time I get it back through my thread or my fabric. So I'm holding it tight, placing my needle where it needs to go, still holding it tight with my left hand as I reach under and pull the needle through with my right hand. And there we go. Ta-da!